guys, Health Coach Karen here, and today I thought I'd talk about what I do as a health coach. I don't know if I've made it too specific yet, but I'm a health coach for self-aware perfectionists. And a self-aware perfectionist to me is a person who's kind of like myself, who has these perfectionistic tendencies. Despite knowing these tendencies, I let them get in the way of the actual progress that I want to make in my goals. And oftentimes I have a lot of health-oriented goals, but I get really perfectionist about it. And I end up kind of going around in circles. And because I've had this sort of way of living and mode of operation for such a long time, I've kind of cultivated all these habits and notions of how to get around this perfectionism that kind of stops me from making any progress. So I thought I'd share that with you today by addressing 3 things. And this is like how I coach holistically. I addressed your body, your mind, and your emotions. And there are different habits that pertain to these 3 things that you can do. And when you do all the habits together, addressing all 3 parts of you, you're able to achieve the type of level of health and fitness that you want to accomplish for yourself. So here we go. So cultivating habits is like laying a foundation. Once you have the habits, you are able to, I don't know how to say this like cohesively, so I'm just gonna ramble a little bit. But basically, you have the habits, and once it's a habit, it kind of becomes automatic for you. It's sort of like your default. So cultivating these habits and strengthening the habits will sort of guide you for the rest of your life. And so like the first set of habits that I'll talk about is pertaining to the body. A lot of perfectionists like myself tend to be really hard on ourselves, and we kind of tell ourselves to, like, you know, when it comes to eating, like, oh, only eat healthy food, I can't have cookies, and I only can eat salads, or something, maybe not that drastic, but something kind of like harsh like that. So something to cultivate are habits of eating with joy and moving with joy. Not necessarily exercise with joy, but find ways to move that incorporate this sense of joy. And the reason why I'm emphasizing joy is because as a perfectionist, when I sort of become this drill instructor version of myself, telling myself I have to only eat this and I have to resist the cookies, it sort of like, you know, creates this like non-joy in my life. So incorporating joy while you eat is going to get your mind thinking of like, well, what do I enjoy eating, and how can I make that a healthier version of what I normally eat? Say that you eat like fried chicken. You know, you can ask yourself, well, like, what can I do to make that a healthier version so that I can still enjoy it? So it'll be something like baked chicken or something like that. And then you can ask yourself, like, what are your favorite, like, healthy foods? Like, what's your favorite vegetable, and how can I make that a part of my day more often? So cultivating this, like, sense of joy in eating is going to be helpful when it comes to creating the type of eating habits that you want that will, you know, eventually get you the body that you want, the healthier version of your body that you want. And the same thing with moving with joy. Ask yourself, when was there a time that I've enjoyed movement? Was I with people? Was there music? What was I doing? And why did I enjoy it? So you can ask these sort of deep questions, like, what was it about dancing with friends that was so joyful for me? Oh, it was because there was community. So maybe you have to find some form of exercise where you're with community. Or like if there was music involved, maybe you have to like find the music, like create a playlist for yourself so that you enjoy the movement with, the type of sort of like environment, like music as environment. Just ask yourself how you can recreate all these things. Like maybe you were dancing with friends at like some club and you had a really great time. Maybe you can like, I'm just thinking off the top of my head, like create like a song playlist, and when you like go out for a run you can like play the same like type of songs, and in a sense that'll like sort of tie you into that memory that was joyful for you. So like those are the habits that you can create for that kind of revolve around your body. But I feel that mind and emotion are sort of like the building blocks that like bring you to the habits to your body. So the next thing that I'm going to talk about is the habits that pertain to your mind. When it comes to your mind and your thoughts, harnessing your mental strength, like cultivating mental strength by telling yourself these like positive affirmations, these positive mantras. I'm such a big fan of positive affirmations and positive mantras. You can probably Google positive affirmations and find like tons and tons and tons of websites with like different like ways of saying like positive affirmations for yourself. But basically when you're positively affirming yourself, saying things like I am strong, or I am capable of cooking a healthy meal, like saying stuff like that is going to create these sort of actions that align with your thoughts. And the trick about that is if you say something about yourself that you don't actually believe, it sort of creates this resistance in yourself. So if you say I am strong, but like when you say that it feels just wrong, like I'm not strong at all, I'm like so weak, I like can barely like do a pull-up, which is true for me, but saying that I am strong and thinking of things to that sort of align with that affirmation will become more and more in the forefront of your mind. And then because you say that you're strong, you'll start believing more and more that you are strong, and then you're going to start like taking actions, performing exercises that continue to strengthen you, because only the strong get stronger, which is another affirmation that I tell myself sometimes. So yeah, like make sure that the affirmations and mantras that you say make sense to you, and say them on a regular basis. Something that I do in the mornings is I meditate, and right after meditation I have a long list of positive affirmations that really resonate with me, and I just read them and like I let them kind of seep in to myself, and I'll kind of be like, yeah, I agree with that, and it helps me. So maybe it can help you too. Something that I just said when it comes to affirmations is that you have to really feel it and believe it to be true, and you have to kind of like harness like how your body feels. When you say something positive about yourself, your body has to be like, yes. So as opposed to like, yeah, that is so not true. So that kind of pertains to emotion, which is, I think, the very foundation of, well, maybe not the very foundation of health, but it's a really substantial part of health that people overlook. Emotions create the way you think, and those thoughts create the actions that you do, that ultimately manifest as your physical attributes. So when it comes to emotion, again, perfectionists tend to be really hard on themselves, and I believe it's because like there's this sort of like extremely high and ideal standard that we put ourselves to, and when we don't get anywhere near those standards, we feel bad about ourselves, which is, it's not great, and as a coach, and you're a person who needs coaching, let me just be the first one to say that cut yourself some slack, because I do it to myself too, and I have to continually tell myself, like, just take it easy, like, relax, take a chill pill. And by doing so, that's sort of like cultivating self-compassion. And maybe I'll do a video specifically for self-compassion, because it's such a big thing for perfectionists, is that we're so hard on ourselves, but we're like nice to so many other people except ourselves. But cultivating self-compassion is, like, to me, number one. That's like almost like the base of achieving the type of health that you want, is like the self-compassion, to be kind of like a loving parent to a scared child. Because that's kind of like a stretch of an analogy, but let me explain. So I feel that when we are sort of being this like drill instructor version of ourselves, of being like, you can't have any donuts, everyone else is eating those donuts, but you can't have them. Or you have to exercise no matter what, no matter how tired you are, you have to get up, no matter how like sleepy and groggy and how just like how uncomfortable it is, you have to do it. And that's kind of being mean to yourself. And in my view, that's sort of like us being sort of reactive to like this inner shame that we have, like, we're not good enough, and so I have to like go to the gym early in the morning, or I have to like do these exercises that I don't like to do, but everyone else says that they're good. So that, to me, that's kind of like the scared child being reactive, and like in a sense like a version of like crying. So cultivating self-compassion, you just have to be the loving and kind parent to your inner child, who is just reactive and scared, and trying his or her best to do all these exercises and like resist all this like food temptation. And when you're being this like loving and kind parent to your inner child, you cultivate self-compassion, and that is what gets your mind right with these affirmations. And once your mind is right, you do those actions to eat the foods that are good for your body, that are healthy for your body, and you do the actions that are joyful when it comes to exercise. And another thing about emotion is that when you are self-compassionate and being nice to yourself, and being like this really kind sort of parent version of yourself to the inner child version of yourself, your stress and anxiety lowers. So when you're stressed, it's like hard to, when you're stressed, it's just hard to hear your inner voice, like the voice of truth of, like, this is actually good for me. Eating these vegetables is probably the way to go. But if you're stressed, you're going to be reactive and be like, you know what, fuck these vegetables. I want to eat a donut, and I'm having a box of donuts for dinner. Which is, that's pretty bad, but that's just an extreme example. But yeah, so like I feel that emotions are so tied in to health that people overlook. But if you cultivate these habits of being kind to yourself and cultivating self-compassion, those are the habits emotionally that'll get you to these like mind and thought sort of habits. You basically just get your mind right, and when you get your mind right, you get your actions right, your actions that affect your physical body. And once you get your mind right and your stress is sort of like being handled really well, you are able to make these mindful actions when it comes to eating or not eating, or choosing not to eat, and moving, or choosing to rest. Sometimes like when your emotions are sort of like in this stressed kind of state, you tend to make decisions that aren't very serving to your body. I think the takeaway is, when it comes to body, mind, and emotion, for emotions, cultivate self-compassion. And once you cultivate self-compassion, you're more able to cultivate positive self-talk, which forms these habits that revolve around thinking and your mind. And once you're able to cultivate self-compassion and cultivate positive self-talk through affirmations and positive mantras, you're able to choose actions that are serving for your body, such as choosing the right foods, healthier foods, and choosing the right modes of exercise or movement, and thus you'll be able to cultivate joy through your senses, basically eating, movement, and yeah. So I think that's it. If you have any questions or comments, definitely hit me up. All my information is below. And if you liked this video, please share it and subscribe. Alright, well, that's all I got today, so thank you very much and have a wonderful day.